USA.
Shut the door, hit the button, watch 'em go. You ain't base, here's a quick ticket to get space. We chillin' up in the back room, you floating through the vacuum. Time to end this session, laughing at your explosive decompression.
Howdy, spacers! The exercise of vital powers along lines of excellence and a life affording them scope. That is the key to happiness, according to Aristotle. Some people, though, people without standards, people who are stealth nihilists, they want you to believe otherwise. Take one, Nazo Servantark, who made a video that was brought to my attention by some loyal followers.
This may sound like rambling, obviously.
That's saying a mouthful, so I pared it down for you.
And you should never fight hatred with hatred in that regard.
Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
Let's get into it from the start.
And it is that some expanded universe fans do not consider the Disney era of Star Wars to be official or otherwise Star Wars.
And it isn't. We've been saying this for years. While he says this on screen, he had the Disney Star Wars canon graphic up there. There are not multiple canons per franchise. There is one canon. That is the definition of the word canon. I made an entire documentary on this 4 years ago. Go check it out. Let's keep on going here.
Now, as I am myself a huge fan of the expanded universe, and it is still to this day my Star Wars canon of choice, I have to disagree heavily with this sentiment that the Disney era of Star Wars is not Star Wars, as there are many themes in it that even exist in the expanded universe.
It isn't Star Wars. There's only going to be one Star Wars. He's going to want to cherry pick Rogue One and Rebels and Mandalorian and whatever else. You can't do that. He wants to pick the Dave Filoni campfires. Remember that bullshit? Oh, it's a different campfire, so it doesn't have to follow continuity. There is one Star Wars. It's George Lucas Star Wars that fits the theme and the ideology that George came up with almost 50 years ago. There are not multiple Star Wars. There is one canon. There is one real Star Wars, guys. Let's go on to the next one here.
Where I fundamentally disagree is how they treat fans of the current Star Wars era. And I believe it is because of this treatment that many people in the expanded universe fandom get such a negative reputation.
Well, who cares? Look at the history here. He does somewhat acknowledge this in the video, but not enough. Take Andy Gutierrez, right, from Disney Lucasfilm, Justina Ireland, author, Daniel Jose Older, author, E.K. Johnson, author, and we all know Pablo Hidalgo. They're all out there egging people on for years. Some of it with blatantly racist tweets against white people and calling us dude bros and then getting all the cartoon avatar weirdos in on the fun. They're the ones who were toxic. They're the ones who started it, and we're the ones who are going to finish it. Let's keep on going here.
It's not that the stuff we don't have isn't there. It's the fact that our stories that we have been invested in for years now are being completely ignored.
Oh, they're being ignored whenever essential legends are being sold, with Disney Lucasfilm making money off of them. And we have an entire library here that we can read over and over again. You could read the entire expanded universe, comics, books, play the games, all of it, and you would not run out of material. You have to make peace with that we have an entire lifetime of real Star Wars that we can enjoy without having to look at anything Disney Star Wars, without having to engage with these people other than to fight them. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to fight for real Star Wars, to preserve real Star Wars. Next.
These folks could have a better time of it, would probably be more open to checking out stories from the EU if, well, I'm sorry to say it, but if we expanded universe fans weren't such jerks about it. And again, I understand where they're coming from. I understand where their anger and bitterness, that a lot of them have the never forgive and never forget mentality, and I'm sorry to have to say this, but you guys just come off as jerks.
Good. That's probably the way we want to these people that support the destruction of real Star Wars, the attempt to destroy it, because they will never succeed, because we will keep it alive. But I'm glad that's part of it. Now you're name calling, you're wanting to call us jerks. Why don't you go call the other side jerks? Nazo Servant Arc. I could give a shit less, by the way, who wants to check out the EU. If someone does, great. If they want to categorically reject Disney Star Wars and talk EU, then let's do it. But I will not tolerate anyone who in any way, shape, or form supports Disney. I just won't. Disney Star Wars is the diametric opposite of real Star Wars. They are not compatible. Why would I support anyone who gives money and supports that stuff? The preservation of real Star Wars is a multi-pronged approach. You can't just talk to people about the EU and the movies and everything else. You have to show them Disney Star Wars and why it isn't real. Because the goal here is to make people forget about Disney Star Wars down the road and only read, talk about, and think about real Star Wars pre-2014. And you can't do that if you're telling them, oh yeah, your Star Wars is just as legitimate as mine is, when it isn't. Now we get into the really juicy stuff here.
Guess what? They're not going to listen to you, no matter how much you call them shill or AI or...
Oh, shill or AI, sticking up for fake views J.I. Acup now. Well, look what I found here, a recent retweet where Nazo Servant Arc is retweeting J.I. Acup, a guy who has launched assaults on us, made personal attacks. And if he could, he would try to ruin our lives. Just because we're telling the truth about what he's doing. If you give J.I. Acup comfort, you are my enemy.
I'm not keeping in mind, I'm not saying you can't be yourself or you can't be honest, because I know some people just generally come off like that they're just generally aggressive, at least in vibe, and that's not entirely their fault, it's just kind of the way they are.
Make up your mind. He's talking about us here, trying to make excuses for you. Don't feel like you have the duty to make excuses for us. Quit being a fence rider. Take responsibility for what you're saying, as we take responsibility for who we are. So, if you think we're bad and we're jerks, then just say it. Don't say, oh, it's just the way. Yeah, everyone is responsible for their own personal actions. We're not just us being us. Does that make sense?
And so, to Disney fans, I would say, just try not to take it too hard when they're harsh like that. But to EU fans, like, please, for the love of God, could you try to be nice? Would it kill you to be nice? Would it literally kill you to try and say, oh, you know, that was an okay show, that was an okay movie, that was an okay... You don't even have to like it, you can just be nice. Lord. And, you know, like, I'm not saying lie or anything, because I'm not, obviously not advocating for that. But, you know, like, oh, you know, that could have been illustrated better. There's ways you can talk about something without taking a massive dump on it.
Where's the fun in that? So nice of him to console the Disney Star Wars fans while trying to give us advice. Why don't you write a book, How to Talk to Disney Star Wars Fans? There's no fun in that at all. And there's nothing nice about criticizing and rejecting Disney Star Wars. Churchill said, each one hopes that if he feeds the crocodile enough, the crocodile will eat him last. We know what he was talking about there, but it applies to a lot of stuff. That's called appeasement, and it never works. We will continue to vilify Disney Star Wars and its fans. We'll continue to call out fence riders. We will continue being real fans, being gatekeepers, and being guardians of true lore. Nazo Servant Arc, get in the airlock.